Welcome to the Music Specialist Speaks. I'm your host, Alan L. Johnston. Today, we're diving into a story that's been making waves across the industry, the launch of Billboard Africa. The headlines promise a new era of global recognition for African music. But when I look at the structure of this deal, I get a serious case of déjà vu. It feels less like a partnership and more like a sophisticated takeover bid. So, is this a cause for celebration, or should we be sounding the alarm? Let's break it down. First, let's establish something fundamental. African music is not an emerging scene waiting for a savior. It is a global powerhouse. The Afrobeat's global takeover, the viral dominance of Amapiano, these weren't gifts from the international industry. They were built by African artists, producers, and grassroots hustlers who mastered the digital landscape and forced the world to pay attention. So, when a legacy Western institution like Billboard plants its flag, my first question isn't finally. It's why now and on whose terms. The announced partnership involves Billboard, a U.S. entity, with the Rwanda Development Board and a Nigerian media company. On the surface, it looks collaborative, but peel back one layer and you see a classic franchise model. The brand, the chart methodology, the ultimate authority, it's all being imported. The local partners are facilitators for a system they don't control. This is where I get concerned as a specialist. This isn't just about creating a chart, it's about defining success. And when you control the definition of success, you control the market. Let's talk about the three biggest red flags from my perspective. First, data colonialism. In the 21st century, data is the most valuable raw material. It's the new oil. This partnership will amass immense amounts of data, streaming numbers, social engagement, airplay from across the continent. This data is a goldmine for understanding consumer habits and predicting trends. The critical question is, who owns this data? Where is it stored? And how will it be leveraged? Will it be used to empower local labels and artists? Or will it be fed into the algorithms of the international partners, giving them an unparalleled and arguably unfair advantage in the market? This is what critics call data colonialism, the extraction of a region's most valuable digital resources for external benefit. Second, the sound standardization dilemma. As an A&R, this is my nightmare. Right now, the African scene is beautifully chaotic and diverse. You have the raw energy of Asaka from Ghana, the intricate rhythms of Bongo Flava from Tanzania, the soulful depth of South African house. What happens when you introduce a single monolithic Billboard Africa chart? There's a real risk that it creates a sonic bottleneck. Artists and labels might feel pressured to produce music that fits a specific, internationally palatable Afro-pop sound to chart. This could inadvertently sideline the unique regional sounds that are the lifeblood of the continent's musical diversity. It's the difference between a curated, export-ready product and an authentic, organic cultural expression. Third, the geopolitics of partnership. Let's not be naive. The involvement of a development board and international media companies isn't a cultural exchange, it's a strategic economic investment. We have to look at the long game. These entities are positioning themselves at the ground floor of Africa's most explosive cultural export. This isn't charity, it's a land grab for intellectual property and market influence. When the primary partners are from nations and corporations with a historical pattern of looking at Africa as a market to be captured, we have to ask if we're witnessing a modern, velvet-gloved version of cultural imperialism. And what about the incredible work already being done? What about turntable charts in Nigeria, or the countless local playlist curators, radio DJs, and journalists who have been the true architects of this scene? A Western-branded chart has the power to overshadow them overnight, making their crucial work seem less relevant to international advertisers and distributors. That's a dangerous erosion of our own infrastructure. So what would a truly equitable partnership look like? It wouldn't be a franchise. It would be a joint venture with African entities holding equal equity and veto power. It would integrate and elevate existing African charting systems, not replace them. It would have radical transparency on data ownership and revenue sharing, with a mandatory percentage reinvested into continental talent development, and its core mission would be to platform the entire spectrum of African sound, not just the most commercially viable exports. Look, the globalization of African music is inevitable and in many ways deserved, but integration cannot come at the cost of sovereignty. The genius, the hustle, the innovation, that's all homegrown. The world is finally dancing to our beat. We cannot, in our excitement for validation, hand over the keys to the studio and the boardroom. The future of African music must be composed, produced, and mastered by Africans. Any partnership that doesn't start from that principle isn't a step forward. It's a remix of a very old, very exploitative song. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are we being overly cautious, or is this a necessary conversation? Find us on social media or music specialist. Until next time, keep listening deeply.